Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ron Halber, and I'm the CEO of the JCRC of Greater Washington. That's the Jewish Community Relations Council. I'm pleased that so many have joined us here today to hear from the three leading Democratic candidates running for Montgomery County Executive. The JCRC is a 501c3 tax-exempt organization, which means we do not endorse candidates. Our goal is to better inform voters. Thank you to Councilmembers Andrew Friedson, Evan Glass, and Will Jawando for joining us today in this virtual forum. The format is as follows: 1 minute for opening remarks, followed by questions that each candidate will have 2 minutes to respond to, and then 3 minutes for closing remarks. So if we can start now with a minute, and Councilmember Friedson, if you would offer your opening statement, please.
Thank you so much, Ron. Thanks to everybody for being here on this call. I'm Andrew Friedson. I'm in my second term on the County Council. I chair the Planning, Housing, and Parks Committee, and I serve on the Health and Human Services Committee. I'm running to make Montgomery County more affordable and more economically competitive. Our economy has stagnated, and we need to grow a thriving private sector economy in order to fund the priorities that we share. I'm proud of our partnership. I've been working arm in arm with the Jewish Community Relations Council as your most reliable and consistent partner to deliver on issues that matter most to the Jewish community: combating anti-Semitism, initiating the first security grant program to protect local institutions, celebrating Jewish heritage, supporting social service organizations, and delivering on affordable housing, paid parental leave, and the largest climate investment in county history. Look forward to hearing your questions, and I believe strongly that we can live our values together out loud and look forward to doing it together. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Glass, your opening statement, please.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us today to talk about the future of Montgomery County. And before I share my vision, I want to share a little bit more about myself. I'm originally from Long Island, New York. My parents divorced when I was 5, and starting in second grade, my mother started working 2 jobs to provide for me. So that meant my neighbors and friends' parents had to take me to Hebrew school, had to take me to soccer practice, and sometimes they even had to take me to the dentist. I came down to Washington, D.C. to attend American University, first in my family to attend college. And then I got a job at CNN as a journalist, covering the country, covering Congress, covering national politics. And at the same time, I moved to Montgomery County and wanted to fix sidewalks in my own neighborhood. That's what got me started in Montgomery County. That is the community spirit I have, and I look forward to sharing more with you throughout this conversation.
Thank you, Councilmember Glass. Councilmember Jawando, your opening statement.
Thank you, Ron. Good afternoon, and thank you to JCRC and for everyone for joining today. I'm Will Jawando. I'm an at-large council member serving in my 8th year on the council. I'm a civil rights lawyer by training and a candidate for county executive. We're in a moment where we see hate is rising. Rights are being stripped away literally every day. Communities that have been targeted historically are being targeted again, and that includes the Jewish community. You all know this better than most. I'm here today with you because this country welcomed my dad in 1970 from Nigeria, fleeing a civil war where over 1 million people were killed. My mom's grandfather from present-day Czech Republic, fleeing religious persecution in 1890. I am an embodiment of a welcoming America. I look forward to talking to you about my record, providing affordable housing, growing our economy, and fighting for the rights for every person, because that's what the next county executive is going to have to do. Thank you.
Oh, that was some lovely music. I don't know where that came from, but that was quite lovely. Anyway, we're going to start now with the question section of our format. The first, we're going to do this in the order of Councilmember Glass, Jawando, Friedson. And this is the first question. What distinguishes you from the other candidates? Why should voters choose you over your opponents? Councilmember Glass.
I think that's a great question. I think that as we evaluate candidates, we need to look at where people have come from and what they have done. I am proud of my track record of success, successfully passing laws and regulations and rethinking how we operate as a community. And the reason for that is because I'm not from politics. I'm not from government. I used to be a journalist. I spent 12 years covering Congress, and that is how I think of myself, quite frankly, in this role on the council and as county executive. I see problems when people bring them to me. I listen intensely and I problem solve. And that is what we need now in county government. We need somebody who is going to solve not only our local problems, rethinking MCPS, rethinking our local economy, because I don't think either are necessarily working for our residents. But it takes somebody who can genuinely go into each community, hear our people's concerns, our neighbors' worries, and their aspirations, and turn that into positive results. I'm proud that I've passed pay equity here in Montgomery County. I've made buses free. I have streamlined and cut red tape so that we can build housing more cheaply and affordable, and also bring more life science and high tech companies to Montgomery County. You know, I first time I ever got a government paycheck was when I started working for the council. And what that allows is making sure that we are able to hit reset and reimagine Montgomery County, because I think we've been resting on our laurels for too long, being a bedroom community to Washington, D.C. And we see what Donald Trump and Elon Musk have done, firing thousands of our neighbors. And so we do need to hit reset. We do need to rethink. And the campaign that I'm running is one where I'm not taking any money from special interests, which means I
I've got to
read
ask
your
you.
interest at heart.
Thank you, Councilmember Glass. Sorry to have to cut you off. Councilmember Jawando.
Sure. Thank you so much. Appreciate the question. It's an important one. I'll give you about four things. One, my lived experience is very unique in this race. I grew up in low-income housing here in Montgomery County, moved 5 times to 5 different apartments before I was in the 8th grade, looking for affordability. I grew up in the Long Branch area, New Hampshire and Piney Branch, an immigrant hub. As I mentioned, my dad immigrated fleeing the Civil War, my mom from Kansas. And it wasn't always easy. I lost my best friend to gun violence when I was coming out of high school. And that was a traumatic experience for me. It propelled me into public service, first with the Montgomery County Police Department, then with the FBI as an honors intern, and then eventually into law school and 10 years on Capitol Hill, working for Nancy Pelosi and Barack Obama in the Senate and Sherrod Brown, before 4 years in the Obama White House and U.S. Department of Education, where I worked on very large programs like Race to the Top and Investing in Innovation Fund. And then I left and went to the private sector, also unique in this regard, at Discovery Communications for 2 years. And then at the Rabin Group as a consultant, working with some of our largest nonprofits across the country to help them achieve their goals. The second would be I've taken on tough policy fights and won. We passed the largest prevailing wage expansion in Maryland history so that folks working on public projects can actually afford to live here. I was proud to work and be a leader on the rent stabilization effort. So our 400,000 or 40% of our residents who rent can live and stay in their homes. And we're seeing quality of housing go up and affordability of housing be maintained for those properties. And then the other thing I would say is my deep policy experience, as I mentioned, working for President Obama, working at the U.S. Department of Education, running large programs, taking off tough issues at the local level and winning, along with my life experience, I think gives me a unique perch to lead this very diverse community at a time when there's a lot going on.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Friedson.
Well, I could talk about some of my work and my professional background at the state level and the coalition that we're building. But I think the thing that distinguished me the most, particularly in this group, is my work and involvement in the Jewish community, whether it's my synagogue, Congregation Har Shalom, where I've been a lifelong member, Federation, the National Board of the Jewish Council for Public Affairs, which is the umbrella organization for JCRC nationally, and a number of other local agencies. This isn't political for me. It's deeply, deeply personal. My dad was on the board of JCRC when I worked on the nonprofit security grant program with Ron when we got that started. When I am up at 11 o'clock at night or first thing on Sunday morning talking to Gila about anti-Semitic incidents in schools or in our community, when I'm helping Bikor Cholim with their commercial kitchen, or sponsoring a unfortunately more controversial than it should have been resolution to combat and address anti-Semitism, or helping Sunflower Bakery access their state capital grants, it's not a political calculation for me. It's me doing what I believe in, me being who I am authentically. That's why the JCRC's inaugural Jewish Community Champion Award was so meaningful. It's not that it was a professional recognition of accomplishments that we were able to do together. It's a personal reflection of my values and of the ability for us to work together to move them forward, to carry on, in many ways, my dad's legacy and what I inherited from him. So that's what distinguishes me in this race. If you want someone who will stand up for the Jewish community, who will be there with you, arm in arm with the Jewish community, elect someone who has been there from the beginning, before I ever was elected, before I ever started running, who will be there long after I am ever in elected office. That's what distinguishes me.
Thank you. Now we're going to move on to the second question, and we're going to do it in the order of Councilmember Jawando, Councilmember Friedson, Councilmember Glass. Many Jewish residents in our county do not feel safe, and for good reason. The ADL's audit, which came out last week, said that 34% of Maryland's anti-Semitic incidents took place in the K through 12 environment, and that's the highest percentage of that type of anti-Semitic incident in any states. 2/3 of those incidents took place in Montgomery County schools. How will you address this rising anti-Semitism in our schools and community? Councilmember Jawando.
Yeah, thank you, Ron. I take this extremely seriously as a father, as the chair of the education committee, as having 3 kids currently in MCPS. Last year in MCPS, every single religion-based incident that was reported was anti-Jewish. And as you mentioned, nationally, Jews are 2% of the population, but are targets of over 70% of religiously motivated hate crimes. It's unacceptable. It demands a serious, coordinated response, not symbolic. I appreciate the work that JCRC has done to offer comprehensive anti-Semitism awareness training to MCPS. I'm disappointed that MCPS has not accepted that. I will continue to urge them to do so. There is some, obviously, Holocaust and anti-Semitism education happening, but we need to start it earlier in middle school. The way you confront hate one of the ways is through education. My favorite quote from Dr. King is, laws can't change the heart, but they can restrain the heartless. We also need to make sure, as our police do a great job, that we are continuing to report and have serious consequences on the code of conduct, both in school and out, for these types of incidences. I also want to make sure that as a county executive, I would create a Jewish community advisory group and a dedicated Jewish liaison to help work with other strategies and issues within schools and out of schools. I've obviously supported the security grants and will continue to do so. I've traveled to Israel. I've spoken with many folks in that country, but obviously here, and how those things are connected and how that drives continued anti-Semitism. So I will speak out and go to everything that as I have, because you have to stand up when these things happen and follow it up with policy.
Thank you. Councilmember Friedson.
This needs to be an all hands on deck approach. Our community is at risk and is feeling the serious security challenges that we face. We need county government, Montgomery County Police Department, Park and Municipal Police, and MCPS all working together to combat it. We need much better coordination among the school system, county government, JCRC, and ADL to ensure better communication and coordination. And ultimately, the training to avoid incidents and better responses when they occur. That's been offered. It has not been fully accepted, which continues to be a major frustration for all of us. I'm proud of the work that we did together to push and grow the nonprofit security grant program. That helps all the institutions outside of the public schools. Ultimately, that's important, but it's not enough. And I've been doing this for the past 8 years, working together with you, with Gila, with Sarah, especially to address incidents within the school system, working with principals, pushing the superintendent, both the current and the previous superintendent, to do a much better job of addressing and responding to acts of anti-Semitism. I work with Dawn Lukey, who actually wrote the state law in pushing the school system to change their response to protocols to acts of hate bias because they weren't being properly followed in terms of the state requirements. But we have a lot of work to do. And I've been in the trenches working with you, with ADL, with AJC, with parents and Jewish educators on these issues night and day. We need to fully implement the educator training on anti-Semitism. We need to move forward with improved curriculum to ensure it reflects the Jewish experience and Jewish identity. We need to dramatically improve responses to anti-Semitic incidents. And we need to make sure that we don't have elected officials who are involved in coalitions with people who say violently anti-Semitic things. We have to call that out. We have to condemn it. We have to be unapologetic about it. We have to stand up and we have to be counted. I have and I will.
Thank you, Councilmember Friedson. Councilmember Glass.
Thank you for this question, Ron. This one is personal. Not only as a Jew, but as a gay man, I see the hate almost every single day, and it has been getting worse. When I was president of the council 3 years ago, I saw the rise in anti-Semitism and homophobia, in all the isms and all the vitriol that is out there. And I took action by creating the Montgomery County Anti-Hate Task Force. And I appreciate my colleagues' support for that initiative, which included Ron Halber as one of the board members on that committee, in addition to ADL and AJC and some other community leaders too. And during those very open and honest discussions, most of the anti-Semitism that we talked about came from our schools. And it was the first time we really had that open up dialogue on how much MCPS needed to do better. And I have never wavered from using my bully pulpit, from calling out hate and telling people that they have to do better. And I don't think that 3 years ago, 2 years ago, the leadership of MCPS, both appointed and elected, were doing enough to protect our Jewish residents and students. And I called them out. I think that the county executive has to use the bully pulpit to call out hate whenever they see it, wherever it is, and for whomever it is pointed at. That is the moral leadership that we as Jews have, always standing side by side with other disaffected and other unfranchised communities. And I will continue to make sure that MCPS does better either in their appointed leadership and also in their elected leadership.
Thank you. The next question will be answered in the order of Councilmember Friedson, Glass, and Jawando. In the last few years, it's been challenging for Jewish social service agencies and other providers to navigate the county grant process and receive needed funding, something personally I know about. How will you fix this system? Also, please provide your vision for the county's nonprofit security grant program. Councilmember Friedson.
Yeah, nonprofits are a core part of our social safety net, and there are few organizations that are more important to that social safety net and the partnership with county government than the Jewish community and the partner agencies that JCRC represents. The Catholic community is similar in that regard, but these are some of the oldest, the strongest, and the widest reaching organizations in our community. The grant process has been a nightmare to navigate. I have been working alongside you and others to try to address it. I raised concerns from the beginning of how these changes would impact our service providers, and unfortunately, we've seen the results. I'm proud of the fact that I've been endorsed and have received advice continuously and will continue to receive advice from Chuck Short, who advises me. He created the nonprofit government system that we have, working closely with JCRC and Catholic Charities and others. But now it's broken. And we can fix it. We can fix it by treating our nonprofit partners actually as partners. We can move to a fee-for-service versus reimbursement system so you don't have to go in debt to provide the county a service. The federal government does this. There are other jurisdictions that do this. It's a much better way to partner with our nonprofit service providers. In terms of the nonprofit security grant program, you know where my heart is. I have been there in the trenches from the beginning. We were able to not only make this happen by me hosting the Faith Security Town Hall that brought all of the faith community together in the aftermath of the Tree of Life massacre, where Ron, you and I worked together to make that happen. But when this was going to be defunded and colleagues wanted to not fund it because it didn't have a connection to COVID, we brought in the Asian American community, expanded it to ethnic and cultural organizations, and ultimately were able to get it through. That's how we make sure that it gets funded. That's how we make sure it continues. I will continue to commit to make sure that this important program stays in the budget as county executive, because I have been there in spearheading it from the beginning.
Okay. Thank you, Councilmember Glass, and we will give you an additional 5 seconds as well. Thank you, Councilmember.
Thank you. I don't think I'll need it, but throughout my focus in Rockville on the council, I have made sure that we strengthen our social safety net. I think our Jewish values are ones that we have to take care and look out for the least fortunate among us. And we are so lucky to live in a community where we live those values and we put those values into our budget. And I know it has gotten really hard to be a nonprofit service provider here in Montgomery County. I think it has been really hard to work with the bureaucracy that we have created with very good intention. But when we have nonprofits that are spending more time filling out paperwork than doing the work of serving our community, we have to do better. And as county executive, I want to streamline that process, make it easier for nonprofits. And we also have to treat our nonprofit partners as true partners and allies, not as simply contractors. And so I'm proud that in this budget, we are providing a 3.5% cost of living increase for their nonprofit providers, even though we have to do more. And at the same time, I'm incredibly proud to be serving on this council and to be living in a community where we are a national leader in providing nonprofit security grants, ensuring that people feel safe in their moment of prayer, in their moment of solitude, regardless of where they're praying or who they're praying to. We live, according to Pew Research, we live in the most religiously diverse community, and we want to make sure that everybody feels safe when they're praying, whether it's Friday evening, Saturday morning, or on Sunday. And I'm just so proud of this community for understanding it. I'm proud to support it, and there's always more that we have to do.
Thank you, Councilmember Glass. Councilmember Jawando.
Yes, thank you for the question, the dual question. The nonprofit agencies that JCRC is advocating for here and works with, whether it's Jessa or JCA or Jacada or Sunflower Bakery, which I would love to. I'm thinking about right now because I'm hungry, or Bender JCC, and go down the list. They are serving our older adults, our people with disabilities, victims of intimate domestic partner violence, Holocaust survivors, and people with behavioral health challenges. So they are so important to the fabric of our community, and our nonprofits in general, which are about 11% of our business, small business community, are really arms of the county government, and we have to treat them as such. We have to make it easier. And that means, again, not having to get reimbursed, and so you can't make payroll and you're struggling submitting forms. It means also having evaluations in place and rewarding those who are doing great work and making it easier. Everyone shouldn't be treated the same. And it's our job as county government to be monitored, to monitor. If you have a high level of effectiveness, you should have a process. Everyone should have a process that works, but your process should be even quicker. And I think there's ways other across the country where that has happened. One of the reasons I proposed increasing the nonprofit grant amount, or the amount that we give to nonprofits, to 7.5%, is because they're doing the work of county government a lot of times more efficiently, more culturally competently. And so we have to recognize this. The 3.5% was not enough. We have to get it up. I'll protect and grow that investment in these organizations. And on the security grant program, it's a world-class example, a national model. We need to continue it. I was at the press conference, as you know, Ron, where we announced our latest grantees. I'll make sure we continue to lift it up, and it brings us together. When we push back and allow this and put our money where our mouth is, it actually helps the community come together and is a way of combating hate.
Thank you. We're going to answer the next question in the order of Councilmember Glass, Jawando, Friedson. In last week's straw poll, on the $8 billion budget. The county council voted 9-2 to adopt a progressive income tax, remove the income tax offset credit, and increase funding for Montgomery County public schools. Please explain your vote and how this budget will impact Montgomery County families. Councilmember Glass.
Ron asking the toughest question, perhaps, right? And so here in Montgomery County, the county executive introduced a nearly $8 billion budget 2 months ago. And in that budget was a series of tax increases, both income tax and property tax. And I immediately said that we should not be doing either. And so I did not support either of those tax increases. But I immediately got to work on the council and finding cost savings and working with colleagues to ensure that we were still able to fund all of our critical services. And so while I personally voted against all of those revenue increases, I personally voted against all of those tax increases. At the end of the day, we were faced with a $7.9 billion budget that funds our schools, funds public safety, funds our labor contracts, which all of us on the council supported. We voted for all of those individual things and our security grants and HHS programs. And so while there were aspects of the budget I did not like, I did vote for the overall budget because unlike Capitol Hill and unlike Republicans in Congress, we can't hold budgets hostage. We have to vote for the budget in order to fund all of the things that we need. And so it was one of those situations where I might have been holding my nose and voting for something. But if we didn't vote for the budget, if the budget failed, we wouldn't be funding our schools, we wouldn't be funding our contracts and all of the social services that we're talking about today. And so when I'm county executive, I am going to right size our county budget, not based on any tax increases, but based on cost of living increases and based on the inflationary adjustments that every other household has to deal with and every private business has to deal with. That's my pledge as county executive.
Councilmember Jawando.
Yes, thank you for the question. I voted against the property tax increase earlier this month as well, with Donald Trump wreaking havoc on our communities. More than 8,000 federal workers fired. My former colleagues at the U.S. Department of Education, gas insanely high, food cost, housing. It was not the time to raise property taxes in a flat regressive way, especially on everyone that hits everyone the same. I also opposed the $692 ITOC change. Again, an effective property tax increase on some of our most vulnerable residents, seniors on a fixed income and others, and low-income homeowners. I also proposed 81 specific line item budget reductions to help close the gap, something that had never been done in the history of the council, $70 million. And I took a lot of heat for that list, but I felt it was the responsible thing to do, to put out a plan that could fund our critical services without raising taxes. We got a lot of feedback on that. And in addition, and at the end of the day, we ended up passing a budget that was not perfect. And I think it is important to vote for the budget. If you want to fund the security grants and MCPS, which is really important to me, and I brokered a deal to get more funding to make sure that we didn't have to fire 800-900 teachers, that we have to responsibility to fund those things. And no budget is perfect. And as county executive, I'll make sure I work in the coming years to right size and continue to reduce the growth of government, but do it in the right ways to fund and fight poverty. And I think that's really important for any county executive to do. The other thing I would say is the nonprofit agencies. I did propose a income tax increase on people making $500,000 a year or more to put that $8 million into our nonprofit agencies, like we were just talking about on the previous question. I do think if you've been given more, you need to support your community with them.
Thank you. Councilmember Friedson.
I voted for the $72 million in additional funding that the council proposed to put into MCPS in the final week. But I didn't vote for the budget. I didn't vote for the elimination of the income tax offset credit, the $692 that every single homeowner is now going to pay on their bill, or the income tax increase, which is the core of this budget. Nor did I vote for a budget that balloons the structural deficit to nearly $300 million. There's been a lot of frustration and concern that was expressed by colleagues about the county executive's budget because it includes tax increases and it included a large structural deficit of $257 million. But the budget that the council approved ballooned that deficit to nearly $300 million and also included taxes. So we didn't solve the problem. And ultimately, it's just not affordable or sustainable for families or for county government. It's equivalent to $300 million deficit that this budget creates for next year is the same as an 11-cent property tax increase to cover the gap. It's just not fiscally responsible. If you're wondering why tax increases get proposed every single year to solve every single problem, this budget demonstrates why on steroids. When the economy is stagnated, which it's been for more than a decade, structural holes like the one this budget increased to, the largest that we've ever seen by orders of magnitude, those structural holes are filled with tax increases. So essentially, bad fiscal decisions are made and families are left holding the bag. So if you want to know what we're going to do as county executive, you should look at what we've done, particularly in the area of tax increases. I have consistently opposed tax increases. I'm running against colleagues who have consistently supported tax increases. There's been symbolic change in this cycle for this budget for this election, but look at the totality of our work and our record.
Thank you. The next question will be answered in the order of Councilmember Jawando, Friedson, Glass. If you are elected as the next county executive, what is your plan to boost economic development? Councilmember Jawando.
Thank you. Just on one comment that was just made, it's very easy to say you're against taxes, then vote for every budget except the last one, which is what Councilmember Friedson did. It's pretty hypocritical, and I think it's not consistent with much of what he just said. On economic growth and development, that's a key priority. We have to grow our economy from the bottom up and middle out. That includes 90 or 95% of our businesses, which are small. My mom and my dad are owners of 2 Montgomery County businesses. My mom has a catering business. If you've ever been to Parkway Deli and had a cupcake or a cookie, you've had my mom's product, so please keep buying it. My dad has a senior transportation service where he takes seniors in a dignified way to the doctor and the grocery appointments, or doctor and a grocery store and the like. It was too hard for them to start those businesses. I'm a lawyer, and we had to navigate the bureaucracy of it, filling out forms. The fees were too high. I actually want to lower those fees, make it easier. I also want to open up, as I have as county council member, the $1 billion of procurement that Montgomery County does in a year. We give a lot of funding to small businesses, but it hasn't always been an open process. I'm very proud that we were able to change and increase the amount that goes to women-owned, minority-owned, and disabled-owned businesses from 20% to 25%. I want to get that over 30% as county executive. That's a big part of it. I also want to make sure we're doubling down on what we're good at. Things like life sciences, where we're the 3rd largest hub in the country, up from 4 over the last few years. I was recently in China and Japan with the current county executive, where we met with over 40 companies. 2 have already signed to come here, Samsung Biologics, and another has signed an MOU as well. There are many others that are interested. We need to move up to that number 1 on that list. There's a lot of opportunity. Making sure we remove duplicative regulation, that we have a customer service focus, and we help grow from the bottom up, middle out. We have all we need here. We have very smart people. We have great assets. We just need to leverage them and pull them together in the right way.
Councilmember Friedson.
We absolutely have to grow a private sector economy, or we are going to have to choose between a deterioration of services, a lack of investment in public schools, or the rest of us who are still here paying higher taxes. The only way to get around that is to grow an economy that can sustain our quality of life. We used to be the regional powerhouse. We are no longer the regional powerhouse. Our total employment is growing at half the rate of Northern Virginia and basically 1/4 the rate of actual growth areas. We have to make it easier, cheaper, and faster to invest in Montgomery County. I've actually delivered on this. I had an Accelerate MoCo initiative that reduces the regulatory timelines by 75% or more for biohealth facilities, for affordable housing, for conversions of vacant office to residential. As council president, I launched a new jobs initiative to focus on innovation, on being intentional and inclusive by supporting people of color and women-owned businesses. We need to expand that, and also an innovation fund that's fully subscribed that we need to double down on. I passed a bill for an economic development strategic plan that has been perpetually delayed by the current county executive. That needs to be followed through on. We need to ensure metrics, and then we need to hold ourselves accountable to actually delivering on those metrics. We need to be working with our Montgomery County Economic Development Corporation with its new leadership. Rather than it being a turf war over who's responsible for what, we need to be working together to grow our economy. We can be expanding our incubators and our accelerators and ensuring a culture of entrepreneurship and risk capital. I get attacked all the time for my relationships in the business community. But how do we grow an economy if we don't have a county executive with relationships and trust and credibility in the business community? I'm proud of the fact that I have been named the Chamber Leader of the Year, that I have been working with the business community, that I have support of many people in the business community. It's the only way we're going to get investment in the county that we desperately need.
Thank you. Councilmember Glass.
We have to fix Montgomery County's economy, full stop. On January 20th of 2025, when Donald Trump brought his buddy Elon Musk to town and started firing thousands of federal workers, it changed everything here in Montgomery County. We had already been resting on our laurels for far too long, just being down the road from Washington, D.C., and having the trappings of the federal government. But when our local economy immediately changed overnight, it makes this urgency even greater. And for those of you who are federal employees or former feds or contractors, I just want to say thank you. You have made our community stronger and our country and planet smarter and healthier and safer. But it does mean we need to provide more jobs. And on day one, as county executive, I am going to hire a director of permitting services who's going to start going through decades of well-intentioned rules and regulations that just don't meet the moment, the year 2026. It is too hard to open and operate a business in Montgomery County. When people move here from around the country and around the world and want to open up a restaurant or a small business and are mired in paperwork instead of doing the work they want to do, we as a community have failed them. Permitting reform, regulatory reform, it is what local government does, and we have to do it better, and that is going to be my focus. Yes, we do need to support our life science corridor, but when we recognize that 95% of our businesses are small, we need to help them. And once we start making it easier to work and open in Montgomery County, then the narrative among business owners will change, and people will stay here. They will open up businesses here, and they won't keep going across the river or up 270.
Thank you. The next question will be answered in the order of Councilmember Friedson, Glass, Jawando. We live in one of the most desirable communities in the country, yet it is also becoming impossible to afford to buy a home or even rent an apartment. What is your solution? Councilmember Friedson.
It is way too expensive to live in Montgomery County. This has been the cause of my entire 8 years on the council. I ran 8 years ago to ease the squeeze on families, to make it easier for young families to move here and for retirees to stay here. This has been the focus that I have had the entire time. And as chair of the Planning, Housing, and Parks Committee, this has been the cause of my 2 terms. We need more housing. You can't solve a supply and demand problem unless you're serious about adding supply. That's not always popular, but that is the reality, and the data bears this out. No one has done more to find creative financing solutions for subsidized affordable housing programs, but you can't just subsidize our way out of the problem with public dollars alone. You need an all hands on deck approach. I'm proud of the fact that we've delivered the Housing Production Fund, which has been named a national model for how state and local governments should tackle the affordable housing challenges. The Nonprofit Preservation Fund, where I worked together for 3 years to bring our nonprofit providers together to put together a program that will help us preserve up to a half of our naturally occurring affordable housing. We have a Habitat for Humanity tax abatement, which will allow them to provide home ownership opportunities for more lower income residents, and More Housing Now workforce housing initiative that I spearheaded with Councilmember Natalie Fana Gonzalez which creates more housing options for more people along our major corridors. I've taken this issue head on. It is emotional, it is challenging, it is difficult, but I haven't hidden when it got tough. I haven't changed my position 180 based on the politics of the moment. I've been convicted, I've been collaborative, and we've delivered progress on this, but we have a lot more work to do. The average detached single family home in Montgomery County is $1 million. Home prices were up 11.2%, with wages only up 1.7% as Trump took office. We've got to have a county executive relentlessly focused on this issue. I have been, and I will be.
Thank you, Councilmember Glass.
It is too expensive to live in Montgomery County, and I know that so many of our kids and grandkids are not choosing to move back or unable to move back. And at the same time, there are too many seniors who are ready to downsize from your single family home, and there are not enough options. This is the problem that we're dealing with. And when we don't provide enough housing for future generations, it is what gets us into these cycles where we only have to look to ourselves for budgetary needs, to why the county executive has continued supporting property tax after property tax. And it's also why there are not enough jobs coming to Montgomery County. When I talk to employers, they tell us they want to come to Montgomery County because of our schools and our libraries and our parks, but the problem is it is too expensive for their workforce. So what they end up doing is moving up to Frederick, moving up to Howard County, and they build homes there that are more affordable. But because there are not enough jobs there, what ends up happening is they get in their car, they come down 270, they come down Colesville Road, Route 29, and then create traffic jams for everybody here. What we need is more transit-oriented development. What we need is more types of housing for low-income neighbors, but also for middle-class families. We have lost middle-class families in Montgomery County. And just like Social Security, we need a middle to help everybody. And so as county executive, I'm going to be supportive of an all across the board housing strategy, not only to help bring our kids and grandkids back, to help our seniors be able to downsize, but also to help our economy. When we have homes for workers, we will have more jobs as well.
Councilmember Jawando.
Yeah, I wish we could talk about this for about 3 hours, but it's a huge issue. When you poll Montgomery County residents, the number one thing they cite is housing affordability as a challenge. Whether it's a young family trying to move in, a renter who's trying to stay in their home, a senior trying to stay as well. And we need to have a comprehensive approach, but there's some things that work and there's some things that don't work. I'll talk about renters first. I grew up as a low-income renter. 40% of our county's 1.1 million residents are renters. Very proud to have led the co-authored and led the fight for rent stabilization, which in homes that are protected, 70% of folks have seen a price reduction, and 70% of folks have seen quality improvement of homes that were rental properties, which were on a troubled properties list. We saw a 70% reduction in 1 year. I was one of two votes against the More Housing Now package because it wasn't a balanced approach that looked at displacement issues and affordability. For example, I offered an amendment that if you knock down a 1950s Rambler and build two townhomes, one of the townhomes should be affordable. You can charge whatever for the other one. That amendment was voted down by my two colleagues. An example of not being against the overall policy, I actually kicked off the debate in 2020, and my first home was a duplex. You can do them in the right place, but you got to look at infrastructure, displacement, and the like. The other issue, you have to preserve existing affordable housing. And that means keeping seniors in their homes, but it also means not incentivizing or pricing them out. There's a policy that both of my colleagues voted for where they're giving a 15-year tax break, no property tax at all, to people who build luxury housing at Metro, some of the highest price housing you can have. There's a property at Grosvenor Metro right now where the rents are going for $10,000, $11,000 a month, and they're paying no property tax for 20 years. That foregoes revenue for schools, roads, more affordable housing construction. The supply side economic, Reaganomics argument that it'll just filter down is totally false. Building luxury housing doesn't filter down. And it takes forever to the extent that it does even a tiny bit. So we'd love to talk about this more.
So we could either do one more question and go over by about 2 or 3 minutes and do summations, or I can give you a little bit more time for your summations. I think elected officials like summations. So I will give you each, instead of 3 minutes for your closing remarks, 4 minutes for your closing remarks. And we will do that in the order of, let's see, who was the last person to begin? Okay, so Glass, Jawando, Friedson. 4 minutes closing remarks. Councilmember Evan Glass, go for it.
Well, thank you, Ron, for organizing this, and thank you, everybody, for taking time out of your Monday afternoon to talk with us about the future of Montgomery County and get to know us a little better. I am so proud and honored to have served for 2 terms on the Montgomery County Council, and during that time, what sets me apart is my ability to work with everybody and listen to everybody, because the only way we're going to meet these challenges that are real is by working together. And my record on the council is one of having legislative accomplishments that help people across Montgomery County. My very first piece of legislation was the Montgomery County Pay Equity Act. When I realized that women and people of color were not getting paid fairly, I made sure we changed that. Most recently, we see the effects of Donald Trump and Elon Musk and ICE in our community, where neighbors are scared to leave their homes. And it's why I passed the ICE Out Act to make sure that private immigration detention centers never get built in Montgomery County. It's also why I have introduced multiple pieces of legislation about data centers, recognizing that we have lots of questions and lots of concerns. And before data centers get built at large scale here in Montgomery County, we got to figure this out and do it right if we do it at all. And also, from a personal level, there is too much hate in Montgomery County. There is too much Jew hate, there is too much homophobia, and there is too much racism. It is too much. And we need a county executive. And I pledge to be that county executive who uses my moral authority, who uses the bully pulpit to call out hate every single time we see it, to put money into the budget to make sure that people are safe while they're praying, to make sure that we have policies in our schools that ensure fair and safe places of learning. And it also means that if we have to change things and reform processes, we should do that. In my heart, I'm a reformer. I recognize that things shouldn't continue just because it's been done that way. And that is how I've led on the council. It is one of listening to people and then taking action. And as a county executive, that's what I plan to do, because we live in the most diverse place in the country. And that means ultimately we all have to get together and get along. Doesn't mean we'll always agree, but we should not be turning neighbor against neighbor on any issue, especially on who we are, where we pray, our immigration status, who we love, or how we identify. This is what makes Montgomery County a wonderful place. It is why I love living here with my husband and our 2 rescue beagles. And it is why I want to be your county executive, because we have local issues that we have to come to terms with: fixing our economy, fixing our schools, fixing our roads. But at the same time, we have to fight back against Donald Trump and MAGA and the haters. And that's the duality of this moment. That is the crossroads we are at. And my life history and my work on the council make me qualified to do this. My moral compass always points north, always points toward inclusivity. And as county executive, you have a partner in me to make sure that we are all welcome, safe, and seen here in Montgomery County. So thank you for the time this afternoon.
Thank you. 4 minutes, Councilmember Jawando.
Thank you so much, and thank you for hosting us today and for having this really, really important conversation. I love this community, and it's why my wife Michelle and I are raising our 4 children here, our 3 teenage daughters, and our son who's 7. This is a wonderful community, home to 4 of the most diverse cities in the country. Right here, Silver Spring, Rockville, Germantown, and Gaithersburg. And I often say that diversity comes with a lot of great food, but it also comes with even greater responsibility. to make sure that everyone is treated well, has the opportunity to thrive, and is safe. And we have a lot that we're under attack right now. The bigotry, the racism, the anti-Semitism, the attacks on our immigrant community from this president and the institution of democracy itself is at risk. And I think Montgomery County has a unique role in lifting up the values that are what America is and has been about at her best. A place that people can come fleeing violence, persecution, looking for opportunity, where they can find open doors, receptivity, and the opportunity to thrive. And Montgomery County and the next county executive has to reaffirm and redouble down on that. And you need a county executive who's going to stand up and do what's right, even when it's difficult. I have not shied away from tough issues. I've taken them on head on. I've done so by listening and working with folks in passing some of the first criminal justice reform, working with JCRC and others that the county has ever had in the midst of the George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and Ahmaud Arbery, the uprising for Black lives. I'm reminded of the deep, deep connection that Black Americans have with Jewish Americans and Jewish people, and that so much of the hatred against both of our communities is interrelated, whether it be the anti-discrimination laws or restrictions in housing. We have seen our communities come together historically to fight against all of these forms of bigotry and stand up for each other. And that's what I look forward to doing as county executive. It's why as chair of the education committee, I co-founded in Summer Rise, which has placed over 5,000 students in job opportunities across the county, because I know when you give our kids something to do during the summer and after school, they're going to be more productive. It's why I introduced and passed the Unmask ICE Act to make sure that no law enforcement in our community are wearing masks. And I want to thank JCRC for your support to protect our immigrant families. It's why every time there has been an attack on the Jewish community or any community, I put out a strong statement and I show up at the vigils and I stand up in community with you, because we must stand together. That's the only way. That's what I tell my kids every day. If you see someone getting bullied, you say something, because only silence is what allows that to continue. And as your county executive, as I mentioned, I will make sure the Jewish community has a strong voice in our administration by establishing a Jewish community advisory group and a dedicated Jewish liaison in the Office of Community Partnerships. And I'm proud to be running with the broadest coalition in this race. Our teachers, our more than 30,000 school employees, our bus drivers, our laborers, Collective PAC, AFL-CIO Labor Council, the American Federation of Government Employees, who's never endorsed in a local race, but because of our bill to give a local preference to folks fired by DOJ for hiring here in the county, have stepped up and supported us. Progressive Maryland, the Working Families Party, U.S. Senator Angela Alsobrooks, who recently endorsed our campaign, as well as the current county executive. If you like him, great. If you don't, I'm my own person, as well as the county executive in Prince George's County, because we have to do things regionally together. I will work with you. I look forward to being your county executive. Please visit willjawando.com, and I look forward to having your support both now and going forward. Thank you so much.
Councilmember Friedson, your 4 minutes for closing statement.
Thank you so much. I am just extremely proud of the close and intimate partnership that I have had with the Jewish Community Relations Council since long before I ever joined the council, and which has continued in my time in public service. As I mentioned earlier, this isn't political or professional for me. It is deeply personal. Together, delivering on the Nonprofit Security Grant Program, the resolution to combat and address anti-Semitism, how we've worked together to speak up and speak out against anti-Semitism in our schools and our community, which is not happening at the extent that it should by those in power, and the historic support that we've been able to provide for our social service organizations and agencies who serve our most vulnerable community members. I am running to make Montgomery County more affordable and more economically competitive. And I'm also running to make sure that Montgomery County continues to be a safe and vibrant place for our Jewish community, which I never imagined would be in question or at risk, like I do question and wonder today. We've been able to deliver innovative programs on affordable housing, to cut red tape, to grow local businesses, to provide inclusive and intentional economic development, to deliver on the county's first paid parental leave law and the largest climate investment in county history. I am really proud of the work that we've been able to do together, and I'm even prouder of the broad-based coalition that we built on this campaign, one that I know will continue as we move forward as county executive, because that's what we're going to need to solve the challenges that we face at a time when the Jewish community is under attack, when our county, our foreign-born residents, our federal employees are under attack by the federal government. We are going to need a broad-based coalition. That's why having a coalition that we build of firefighters, career and volunteers, of retired teachers, of police officers, nonprofit business and community leaders who've endorsed our campaign, 6 state senators, delegates, elected officials at every level of government, from municipal to federal and everything in between. What our coalition doesn't include are groups and organizations affiliated with Democratic Socialists who have continued to attack the Jewish community and who have continued to deny Jewish community members the ability to participate in progressive spaces. We need to call that out. We need to speak about that. We need to make sure that we understand what is at stake in this election. It is not some foreign issue in some other place, in some other part of the country. These are issues with organizations that participate in our community, in our politics, right here, right now, in this election, over the next 5 weeks, which is going to determine not just the next 4 or 8 years. It's going to determine the next 20 or 30 years, and whether or not we are building a community that is safe and inclusive and welcoming, as it was for me when I grew up here, when my parents decided to raise me. I am deeply focused on Demi, my wife, and our daughter, Joelle, and whether or not Joelle is going to grow up in a county like the one where Demi and I grew up in, where she is going to feel welcomed and she is going to feel safe, and she is not going to feel the scourge of anti-Semitism everywhere she turns, and whether she's going to have an economy that has a job for her and that has housing that she can afford, that provides the type of life that I want for her, that Demi wants for her, and that I hope that she ultimately is going to want for herself. That's what's at stake in this election. That's why I'm running for county executive. I hope to have your support. Join us at andrewfriedson.com, and thank you so much for taking the time this afternoon about the future of our community.
So I want to thank all of our candidates, first of all, for their long-term public service and dedication to our county, and for making and choosing this. Public service is an incredibly honorable profession. We appreciate it. And we also want to thank the hundreds of audience members from around the county who joined us here today. To learn more about the candidates and others seeking office, please consult the JCRC and Washington Jewish Week Voters Guide, which is on our website, www.jcouncil.org. Of course, it's very important we encourage all of you to vote. Mail-in ballots were sent out last week and must be postmarked or dropped off in a ballot drop box by June 23rd. Early voting runs from June 11th to the 18th, and Election Day is June 23rd, with the polls open between 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Thank you for joining us.